Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. If it's your first time joining, thank you. You have more than likely found this video after purchasing the Ripple Effect Quilt Block pattern through Redthreadquiltco or Redthreadquiltco on her Etsy page. And if you have purchased the pattern, you will have discovered that there are a couple different video links that bring you to my YouTube channel. So I found this beautiful block pattern after scrolling through Facebook, and I belong to many Facebook groups, and I found this beautiful quilt block design. And I really fell in love with it because it was just something that I hadn't seen before. And I really liked the way it looked. Not only that, but green is my favorite color. Okay, so in communicating with her, she asked me if I would test the quilt block pattern before she released it for sale. And so we have developed a little partnership on doing that. And in today's video, what I'm going to be showing you first is we are going to learn how to cut our octagons that we need. Let me move this over and move this down just a little bit. And in the quilt block, you are going to have 3 different sizes of octagons. So you're going to have this main one here, which is the large octagon, 2 medium size, and 2 small size. Now I know that these 2 don't quite look like an octagon right now, but what it does is that when you assemble your quilt blocks together, this side has the seam allowance in it, so that's why these ones look a little kind of wonky, okay? That's going to be completely normal, so don't freak out when you are assembling your block if you get this look here, okay? Okay, so we're going to set this aside so we have a little bit more room. I'm going to set my tablet aside here so I can have a little more room as well. And I'm going to just scroll to the part that I need so I know what my measurement is. Okay, so I'm going to talk to you about a few little things that you will need to make this go a little bit easier. So first of all, in learning how to cut octagons, there are a lot of very confusing tutorials on the internet on how to get an octagon with equal sides. And an octagon has 8 different sides that are all equal. Okay? So what we want to do is we want to figure out how to cut this so each side is an equal measurement. Now in her pattern on page 8, I'm scrolling through to find it. On page 8, she has some different methods on how to cut octagons. She has 2 different methods, and if you go to that page, you will have found my video. So what I'm going to show you is it just takes one simple math step on how to get an octagon to equal the same measurement on all 8 sides. So I did a lot of research on how to figure this out, and in watching probably 7, 8, maybe as much as 10, 12 different videos, I kind of figured out a way to make it a little bit easier that made more sense in my head. Okay, so while we are about to get to that, there are a couple things you will need first. So you're going to need some type of ruler. So I have a 6.5 inch, a 4.5 inch, or a 2.5 inch ruler. What worked best for me is the 2.5 inch because it was small enough that I could maneuver it easily. If all you have are 4.5 or 6.5 or 3.5, whatever which one you want to use what's going to work best for you. Okay, so we're going to set those aside. You're also going to want some kind of rotary cutter. What I found that worked best is my little 28mm cutter because it was just for really small quick work. You can use some pins if you like. You will need a calculator unless you know the measurements right off the top of your head. You are going to want a pencil or even some type of, let me get these here, some type of fabric marking pen. Either like a Mark Be Gone, this is a water erasable, or a fine point Mark Be Gone. And this is literally a really nice fine point. I liked the pencil. It was just a little bit easier for me, but I think for today's tutorial, I will try to use the fine point Mark Be Gone. Okay, then you are going to need some type of a seam or a measuring gauge. This is a seam gauge that you can get in a little pack like this. It comes in a little pack like this, and I either purchased it on Hobby Lobby website or in store. And it comes with the little seam gauge, a seam ripper, and some thread nippers. And I usually buy it just for the thread nippers. I love these thread nippers. Okay, so I have used these in the past and I'm not a huge fan of them. I just don't like them. I find that this little one like this works better for me. And you can see that there are multiple different size measurements here. And then if you flip it over, there are more on the other side. And I believe in counting, there were 18 different measurements on this little tool. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, this little portion right here, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then 9, and then on the other side another 9. So a total of 18 different measurements on this tiny little thin piece of aluminum. If you are interested in purchasing these, you can just look up fabric measuring gauge on Amazon, and I believe I found 2 of them for under $5.50. So I really like these. I really like how simple it is, and it's just a simple tool that I don't have to sit there and figure out what the measurement is on a gauge like this. Okay, so then what you're going to do is you are going to, of course, grab your fabrics. And I have a couple different pieces here. I have 3 of them here. And I will show you why I have 3 of them. I have found 4 pieces work, but we're just going to go ahead and stick with 3 today. Okay, so since you have bought the pattern, you should be on page 4. Okay, and page 4 is going to tell you all of your fabric cutting instructions and the measurements that you need. I will not be sharing the measurements with you in either this video or the tutorial on how to assemble the quilt block. Because this is a paid for pattern, you will have to buy the pattern to get the measurements, okay? It would not be fair for me to share those measurements, because then you could just come to the video and have them all. So therefore, please definitely go check out her Etsy store at redthreadquiltco.com, or I'm sorry, Red Thread Quilt Co. Etsy shop, or redthreadquiltco.com. I believe it may be on her website as well. So definitely the Etsy shop. I know it'll be in the Etsy shop. Okay, so we are going to be cutting the medium-sized octagon. I hope I have not been saying hexagons this whole video, because they're not hexagons. It is octagon with 8 equal sides. Okay, so in looking at your cutting fabric requirements, you are going to want to start off with a quilt block piece, or I'm sorry, a fabric piece that is 3.5 inches. These are going to be the only measurements I tell you. So it's going to start at 3.5 inches, and we want to create an octagon that has equal sides that measure 1.5 inches. Okay, now to do that, an easy way to do it is you're going to fold your fabric. I'm going to clip off these. Hang on just a second. Let me get my little nippers here. And I'm going to just kind of clip off these little threads here. Okay. So you're going to take your piece of fabric and you are going to fold it in half. Okay. And I just finger press it really easily. Finger press it again. And you should have a piece that looks now like that. So it is going to look like 4 little pieces, 4 little squares, just like that. Okay. So now what you're going to want to do is leave it folded in half. And you know that your side needs to be 1.5 inches. Now, how are you going to get that 1.5 measurement out of a square? Okay, how are you going to get an octagon with the sides that measure 1.5 inches out of a square piece of fabric? One tip that I learned is that there are all these math formulas and everything on how to get the sides equal. And in doing that, I learned that the easiest way is to take that measurement per side and divide it in half. So that's what we're going to do. So I have my piece of fabric folded in half, and I know that I need it to be 1.5 inches. So I'm going to take my little calculator here, and I'm hoping you guys can see that number. So I know it needs to be 1.5, so 1.5, and I'm going to divide that by 2, and that equals 0.75. Okay, so of course 0.75 is 3/4 of an inch. So now you're going to take your little measuring gauge and you're going to find your 3/4 of an inch side, and I have that right there. And what you're going to do is you're going to take your piece of fabric that you have folded in half, get your marking pen or your pencil, whatever you're going to be using. You're going to take your measuring gauge and you're going to line up your straight edge along the fold line. Okay, so like so. And you're going to mark your 3/4 inch. And I can barely see that, so I'm going to switch over to my pencil. So we're going to go back to that mark. Some fabrics, these type of markers work really well, and some of them they just don't. So make sure you use whatever's going to work best for you. Okay, so I started off up here and I marked here. I'm going to go down to the opposite side, or the opposite end, and I'm going to mark there as well. Then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to mark the opposite side. And make sure you're really careful when you are marking. I've done it on a couple of them already. By marking it, I am kind of like loosening the threads on the fabric. This fabric, I'm telling you guys, I'm not a fan of it. So just make sure you don't use a lot of pressure and kind of like distort your edges. Okay, so when you open it back up, this is what you should have. You should have a mark here, 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 and here. And hopefully you guys can see that all okay. Now what you're going to do is you're going to fold it in half the opposite way. So now that your marks are going to be on the side, and you want to do the same thing. And mark there. And this does take a little bit of time, but it is going to help you get accurate measurements on all your sides, or very close measurements. And I will show you what I mean in just a moment. And after you have them all marked, this is what it should look like. So you should have 2 at the top, 2 at the bottom, 2 on each side. Okay. Hopefully you guys can see those all okay. You can see all those marks. Now what you're going to do is lay your piece flat. And this is where a little hack comes in. And that's why I have these 2 additional pieces of fabric here. This is going to help you cut your pieces a little bit quicker. And I did find that 4 pieces of fabric will work, but you do have to be careful. 3 I found works the best. Okay, so what you first want to do is you're going to get your little ruler and you're going to make sure that your marks actually do measure 1.5 from each mark. And if you're using a measurement like this, you're going to, let me show you here on a piece of paper, and actually give me just a moment. I'm going to zoom in the camera so we can see just a little bit closer. Give me just a moment. Okay, so now we can see a little bit closer. And I'm gonna try to really stay in frame here. Sometimes I have a habit of getting out of frame, but I'm gonna try to make sure that I really stay in frame. So you can see our little marks. So you're gonna take your ruler, and when you do mark with one like this, you're actually gonna be marking just outside the measurement. So when you take your ruler, we know it needs to be 1.5. So you're actually going to be measuring from inside this mark and inside this mark. So that's where your 1.5 is going to be. Okay, so just like so. Can you guys see that okay? So it's actually inside the mark right here and inside this mark. So this one will be to the left of the mark. This one will be to the right of the mark, and that's how you're going to be measuring, okay? So for each one, you can kind of spin it around and make sure that all your marks are accurate, okay? So then what you want to do is you're going to turn your fabric to whichever way is going to work best for you so you can see the measurements, okay? So now you're going to take your 1.5 inch mark, and you're going to line it up. Okay, so we want it to be right here on the edge of this fabric and on the edge of right here. Okay, so you're going to move it around just so you know that it is going to be right inside that mark and right inside that mark. And if you're not perfect, it's okay to just go a little bit beyond it. So see how I'm going a little bit beyond my marks, that it's right here and right here. So you can make sure that that is how you find your 1.5 inch mark. Now, my little hack that I found to make cutting go quicker, take a couple different layers of fabric, lay them on top, and make sure that they are lined up nice. Take your piece that you measured, line up right on top, and hold it the way, whichever way is going to work best for you. Take your mark or your ruler, find your marks, line them up, and again my 28 millimeter worked best, and I'm just going to cut. And there is our first side. Now I like rotating to the right. It just is easier for me. If you have a rotating cutting mat, go ahead and use that because it will make it even a little bit quicker. And again, I'm measuring inside my mark. I'm going inside this one again. And you can see that my mark is right here at the very edge of the fabric, and right here again at the very edge of the fabric, and I'm cutting. And I'm going to keep doing it until I get all 4 corners cut. And hopefully I am not getting out of frame. And there you go. There's your octagon. And since you layered 3 pieces together, you have 3 octagons with only measuring 1 piece. There we go. That is how you're going to do all 3 sizes of your octagons. So it works with the same measurement of the large octagon and the small octagons. All you're going to do is you're going to be taking those cutting side measurements. For the small one, you're going to want them to be 1 inch. For the large one, you're going to want them to be 2 inch. So you're going to take that 1 inch, divide it by half. You're going to then take your large octagon that you need to cut, and it needs to have sides that are 2 inches. So you're going to take that 2 inches, divide it in half, and you're going to do your measurements, and you're going to create your octagons. Okay guys, if you have any questions, please comment down below. You can also go to Redthreadquiltco.com, either her Facebook page or her, I believe she said her email as well, and she will help you if you have any questions. For the next tutorial, what that is going to be is it is going to be on the complete quilt block assembly. So please look for that link in the pattern instructions, and we will see you very soon. Thanks guys. Bye-bye.